Everyone, my name is Hayden, Dalton, and I am talking to you today about the AuScope Geochemistry Network, or the AGN. The AGN was set up in response to a national expression of need for better organisation and coordination of geochemistry labs and the data they produce across Australia. So with that in mind, we're aiming to foster and coordinate an Australia-wide collaborative geochemistry infrastructure. So who are we at the moment? We're led out of Curtin University, and there was also a node at the University of Melbourne, which I'm part of, and Macquarie University. We are supported and funded by AuScope as well, who are a research infrastructure provider to the Earth and Geospatial Sciences in Australia, and they're funded by the Australian government through the INCRIS scheme. And then we have Lithodat here, who are our software developers for the AusGeochem platform, which I'll be discussing a bit later on. Importantly though, we want to expand the network, and we have actually applied for funding to do so with the ARDC. Unfortunately, we weren't successful, but we are pushing ahead with applying for funding through AuScope, so we can actually employ new node data scientists and expand our network beyond 3 institutions here to incorporate more of the geoscience institutions across Australia and create AGN+. So what are our existing goals? Well, I've got a few to go through here, and this list is by no means exhaustive and in no particular order. But one of our key priorities is to promote investment in new and advanced geochemical infrastructure. An example of that would be the new ion probe, which is being installed at the Giant Data Centre at Curtin University. Another key thing is we want to actually endorse and promote the capabilities that we already have in the labs at the moment, and then support the amount of access that there is to those laboratories. So increase the exposure of those laboratories and their techniques they can undertake. So with that in mind, we're going to try and make a platform or a service online where a user, whether they're a geoscientist or not, could search for a particular technique they want to carry out, and then find out which laboratory would be best suited for that particular problem they're trying to solve. A number of names listed there. We're not sure what it will be called, but it is in the works to create this sort of database for a customer, essentially, to be able to find where they want to go to carry out some research. We're also big on fostering collaboration, of course, and that's part of the network, is to get these institutions together. But also providing professional development through some online tools, training and workshops. A workshop was held in person at the start of the year at the University of Adelaide. Of course, in-person workshops soon became impossible last year, and so we provided public webinar series every month where they were live, and you can come along, anyone can come along and watch it. But if you couldn't make it, we also created a YouTube channel which has the recordings of these webinars, and we've done 5 so far as of the end of last year. Also on the workshop front, we are keen to have one this year. Importantly, we want to try and launch AusGeochem in a workshop setting. It'll likely be virtual, given the current circumstances. We also want to have a workshop where we can discuss collaborations between institutions and also share some of the exciting science and research that's going on within the geoscience community. Another key goal for us is to preserve legacy data sets. An example of that is the McNaughton Shrimp Collection, where we have over 20 years of amazing research and data and shrimp mounts that lacked a digital footprint. So the AGN, along with the GSWA, worked very tirelessly to ensure that we could archive this both physically, but also store that data on AusGeochem, where it can be viewed publicly for years to come. We're also doing a similar thing with the Thermochron research group at the University of Melbourne, where they're going through a process of digitising their extensive and world-class archive, both in their own database, but also on our platform, AusGeochem, again, which I'll be mentioning next. So AusGeochem is probably our biggest project at the moment, and it's going to be a fair Australian geochemistry data ecosystem that can host a wide variety of geochemistry and geochronology data. This is a snapshot of what it might look like, or what it does look like at the moment. It's a platform that's going to store Australian-produced geochemistry data from around the globe. So there'll be data points from all across the Earth. As long as the data is produced in Australia, it'll be available to put on the platform. But what is the platform? Well, like many repositories that already exist around the world, it can store your data as in a database. But there are some key differences to other repositories. One of those is the fact that there will be streamlined data upload. The idea with AusGeochem is that it connects directly to geochemistry laboratories so that data can be loaded from the machines even directly to this platform, where it can be viewed in a spatial context with other data that's being contributed by other scientists. Importantly as well, we're going to provide the service for minting IGSNs, or International Geosample Numbers. So these are the persistent identifiers that are unique for a sample, a bit like a DOI for a journal article. And increasingly, these are going to become mandatory for upload into databases. So what would happen is you might have a large data set of samples and their results, but they don't have IGSNs. So you could upload that whole large data set and mint an IGSN for every one of those samples instantaneously. Another big difference to other repositories is the ability to actually carry out analyses from a stats point of view, live and on the fly. So you can compare your data with existing data and carry out some analyses from a stats point of view. The other key thing with our platform with AusGeochem is that you're in control of who can see the data. You can control the privacy so that only you can see it, or maybe some collaborators could see it, or you can make it completely available after a certain period of time. So the way that your data is shared and disseminated is completely under your control. Of course, you can publish your data sets, so you can get a DOI for your data sets, and you can also mine existing data sets that are already on the platform. So you could compare, for example, the numbers you produce with those that already exist on the platform. And you can visualize all that data too by making plots on the fly, and then you can export those plots for publication use. So as you can see, it's got a lot more functionality than just a repository. There's also this ability to see all of your data with other data from other scientists in a spatial context, and then also to provides the ability to do some manipulation as well, which is fantastic. But how are we doing this? Well, we're working closely with the Lithodat development team, so they are doing all the heavy lifting from the coding and software development point of view. The AGN are responsible for providing the guidance on how we want to manipulate and manage different data types and different analytical protocols. We're working with the ARDC, who are helping us with the IGSN minting. And then importantly, as I mentioned before, there are other repositories that exist for geoscience data, so like EarthChem or PetDB, and we're working with them to ensure that what we're doing is consistent, although it is different from a use point of view. We want to make sure their reporting systems aren't way off what already exists. And then we're speaking with MinDat, for example, to make sure that lithology lists are accurate and the hierarchies are accurate as well. In terms of how we're going to build these data templates to make sure things are standardized, we're working with an expert advisory group for different techniques. So shrimp uranium lead has their own expert group, so does laser ablation for uranium lead and TCN hafnium. The argon has a group, and so does the fission track and uranium, thorium, samarium, helium system. So these experts are working together to build a common technique-specific metadata template and data model. Of course, there are a lot more to come, but these are the four we're starting with during the development phase. The key thing is this common data template and data model aspects. It's going to standardize the way that data is structured between labs within Australia, and also standardize the way that we're reporting metadata to ensure that everyone is meeting the minimum standards for sample metadata reporting. So where are we at the moment? Well, we're undergoing alpha testing, and the team currently is doing that on their own with Lithodat closely. But in the future, we do hope to actually invite more users to come along and test out the platform and to give us some more feedback about functionality. And then with time, we're going to roll out these technique-specific data models, starting with uranium lead shrimp, with, as I said before, more to follow. And we're also keen to have a workshop in 2021 to launch the platform. If you want to see AusGeochem live and being used for low temperature thermocon, for example, you can check out Sam Burns' talk in session 9.2. And before I finish, I want to reiterate that we are making plans to expand the network to incorporate a much greater diversity of institutions across Australia and really make this network fully collaborative across that sphere. So thank you so much for listening, and do stay in touch.